Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Batman, the Arkham Saga Omnibus from DC Comics. This is the 2024 printing, so let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So, before going any further, I just want to go ahead and answer the question, does this fit into the reading order of Batman? Not really. This is one of those books that does not take place in the main universe. And we've seen that before with the Batman Adventures Omnibus, the Batman and Robin Adventures Omnibus. So this is actually in the Arkham world. And if you've never played any of those games, oh my gosh. Rocksteady Studios did this amazing series of games. Batman was voiced by Kevin Conroy, and Mark Hamill voiced the Joker, and it was just really cool. And I got to play a couple of them. But first, let's go ahead. We're talking about the comics, so I'll explain all that here in a little bit. Let's look at the spine here. The Batman, the Arkham Saga Omnibus, and Batman up there, probably hanging up on some kind of rooftop. All the stories behind the smash hit video games. Whether you're a fan of the game or simply looking for a fresh perspective on the ever-growing Batman mythos, this is a book you need on your pull list. And that is a very interesting quote to pull. Now, most people, when they're probably looking at this, they saw the white spine and they're like, that's not Batman. But as you can tell from over here, Batman has had many different types of spines, colors, and some just white on black, and even the Batman the Hush saga has a white spine. So this isn't unusual for them to do something like this. And, you know, honestly, they have to do something that stands out, too, because it's not in continuity. We have a cover here, and this is the video game cover. I do believe that's from the Arkham City variant cover. And let's take it out of the dust jacket. We have an image of Penguin right there, and Poison Ivy right here. So nothing really on the flaps, and printed and bound in Canada, and the book retails for $150. I'm pretty sure that's how much the original printing was too. And then there is some embossing going on here. There we go. Batman the Arkham Saga Omnibus and the Batman logo. And then the spine of the book right here. Batman, the Arkham Saga Omnibus, the DC logo, and the Bat logo. Not sure if you can even tell. Nothing on the back. So this is strictly just a reprint. This is the same design that was underneath the dust jacket in the original printing. And the way I know that is because my brother has the original printing because he loves those games. So before I even crack it open and talk about the stories found in here and check out this artwork, this book has 1,648 pages. And believe it or not, at one time it was the biggest omnibus we had. But now, Marvel said, hold my beer, and they released this Avengers vs. X-Men omnibus with 1,680 pages. So 1,648 pages, 1,680 pages. So let's go ahead and crack the book open, check out the artwork, and talk about some of the stories found in here and how exactly it ties into the world of the Arkham games. Alright, let's go ahead and crack this big sucker open. You have black end sheets, Batman the Arkham Saga Omnibus, the bat signal there, and here are all the creators. You have Adam Beechin and Paul Dini, Peter Tomasi, and also Alan Burnett, Tim Seeley, just to name a few of the writers. Some of the artists here, like Christian Deuce and Vincent Cifuentes, Tom Derenek, Omar Francia, Richard Ortiz, and also, like, some early artwork here from Jorge Jimenez, or for that matter, Bruno Redondo. You also have artwork in here from Derek Robertson. And, oh, I forgot, Victor Bogdanove does some early artwork in here. Iguara. And this is also putting in the inkers like Art Thibert right there, and Eric Wynn. The colorists over here like Santi Casas and David Lopez, Ikari Studio. And then Randy Mayer. And then your letters, Travis Lanham, Rob Lay, and Daron Bennett. And then right here, Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. This is really interesting because Harley Quinn was created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Deadshot is co-created by Lou Sayre Schwartz. So I find that really interesting. Who they usually have there are like Superman and Batman created by, or Supergirl and Superboy as well. But I haven't seen the Deadshot one yet. So here's your table of contents, and don't worry, it does have page numbers. I know some people worry about that. And I don't know if the original one does, because I didn't own it. I have this one here, so I don't have the original one to compare it to. And it is a lot of issues collected in here. Now, what they tell you is the name of the issue and where it was originally released, and if it was a digital chapter. So some of these are digital chapters. And we kick it off with Batman Arkham Origins. So this book collects Arkham Asylum, The Road to Arkham, Batman Arkham City 1 through 5, Batman Arkham City Endgame, Batman Arkham Knight 1 through 12, Batman Arkham Knight Annual number 1, Batman Arkham Knight Batgirl and Harley Quinn number 1, Batman Arkham Knight Genesis 1 through 6, Batman Arkham Knight Robin Special number 1, and Batman Arkham Unhinged, which was a digital series. So the book has 1,648 pages, and again, retails for $150. Now, don't be thrown off by this first storyline. I had never read any of the stories in here, and like I said, I've played like I'm such a somebody needs to take my nerd creds away. I've only played the 2 games. I played Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I never played Arkham Knight. I know the twist. I know who Arkham Knight is because my brother, again, huge fan. I never played Arkham Origins, and I think there was another one too that not a lot of people liked. What was it? The Suicide Squad Justice League? It's like Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, something like that. But the first 2 were amazing. Arkham City was one of the best games I've ever played. If you haven't played the video games and you want to play the video games, don't read this omnibus because it will spoil some of the twists and turns, including some of the deaths and including some of the revelations as to who some of these characters are. Especially when you're looking at the Arkham Knight Genesis storyline. So just in case you haven't played it, maybe read this after you've played some of the games. At least Arkham, the first 3. Because something huge happens towards the end of Arkham City and where it goes into Arkham Knight. And I don't want that to be spoiled by anybody because, you know, playing video games is a huge experience. I loved it. And I remember how shocked I was. And I read the damn comics and I was still like, whoa, I can't believe they did that, because they really take you out of this Batman world, out of this Batman comfort zone that you've known all your life. It doesn't matter if you come from the animated series or the comics. The games just were something else. So again, a standalone universe. All right. So let's go back to what I was saying. Don't be turned away by this first storyline, because the first storyline is kind of like your choose their own adventures. And I wasn't expecting that when I read this. So if you want to continue one particular part of the story, turn to the next page. To try and silence the culprits, go to the next, or go to page 23. Now, luckily, they have renumbered the pages to match the omnibus, so that's good, right? Like, you can go to page 34 right here. Sometimes you have to go back. And I will say there are implications, or rather, there are horrible outcomes if you choose the wrong way to go. So if you're a fan of those choose your own adventure, this is perfect. You're going to love this. And it's about 150 pages of the book. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds really hokey, yeah, not for everybody. But the rest of the omnibus is nothing like this. This is just the first book that's collected in here. But I do find it interesting that you can bounce back and forth. Sometimes some of the people that are kidnapped are killed if you choose the wrong way to go. I had to read every page just to see what the different outcomes were. But it is really the story of Batman before Arkham Asylum and facing up against the Penguin. Now, the way that this particular story is mapped, this omnibus, is that we have the stories that lead up to Arkham Asylum. And I thought that was a really good idea. Like the origin story of Batgirl, even though it's part of the Batman Arkham Knight stories, it's a damn good story because it takes place before Batman or Bruce Wayne goes into Arkham Asylum. So it shows how she becomes Batgirl, and then how we ended up getting Harley Quinn. And then we get the Arkham Asylum, Road to Arkham Asylum here. Alan Burnett writing this with Carlo D'Anda, doing a lot of the artwork throughout this particular omnibus too, towards the beginning. Now, this just, I think it was a comic book that came with the limited edition of the video game. And it's just a prelude to the video game. And then we get this right here, Arkham City. So Arkham City is taking place between Arkham Asylum and the events of Arkham City, the video game. I know that's a little confusing, but if you've played the video game, you know what's going on, especially with Titan Joker over here. Why is he all beefed up? Well, this particular miniseries is all about the ramifications of that. Batman hasn't met Hugo Strange yet. If you play the video game, you know where that goes. But it is interesting to see him do some like Batman stuff, like go undercover, pretend to be like a villain, to go into the Joker's gang, to go into the Penguin's gang. And I was like, yeah, that's the Batman that I like. We get to see him use the Batvision, which he does a lot in the video game, which is really cool to see it in the comic book format. And then we get a lot of revelations here, not just for the characters of like Hugo Strange, but also the Arkham Warden, Quincy Sharp. We have these little splash pages of the villains while there's a narration going on. And this does have something to do with the outcome of the first video game. So at the ending of the first video game, something happens, or is happening to the Joker, that this actually deals with. And here are some Arkham City digital chapters. And the digital chapters take place during the video game and also before the video game. So sometimes it's a little bit of a flashback. Sometimes it's taking place during the video game. Again, if you haven't played it and you're wanting to, by all means, play that first, because this will spoil some of the big things that happen through that particular game. And then we end up getting the Arkham Unhinged. By the way, you got characters in here like Catwoman and Poison Ivy in that one Arkham City storyline that lets you know what their status is by the time you get into Arkham City, the video game. Now, that's really cool if you play the game. And it's like, oh, that's okay. If you haven't played the game, you're like, I kind of saw that coming. Now, we get to the Arkham Unhinged. This is an original digital comic, and this came out at the same time that the Arkham City game did. Derek Fridolfs is your writer throughout here, and then you have different artists like Mike Miller, you have artists like Jorge Jimenez and Bruno Redondo. This is where you see some of the early artwork by those folks, and Derek Robertson doing some of the stuff in here. But Unhinged went for a while. I think it went on for like 18, maybe. I don't know if they're called issues, webisodes. I'm not sure what to call it. But it does highlight on the big villains that play a big part throughout the video games, which is, of course, Arkham City. Some of it taking place in the past, some of it in present time again. And you get to see the different Robins through here as well. And Unhinged, like I said, goes for a long time. And you get to see some characters that didn't play a big part in the video games too. And it makes for a nice companion to the video game. You get to see a lot of the characters kind of fleshed out, because in the video game, you only get to see the things through the perspective of Batman, Bruce Wayne. In the comic book adaptations, by the way, 1,680 pages. I don't care how you're looking at the dialogue and you're like, oh man, that must have been really fast to read because there's not that much dialogue. No, it still took me a long time. It took me a week and a half to read this. Now, of course, I was reading other things in between, but it was no joke. Like, it took me a week and a half to read it. It doesn't matter that there's not that much dialogue. It still will take you some time. Now, what the hell was I saying? Okay, there's Hugo Strange, who, of course, plays a big part in the big storyline in Arkham City. There's a lot of Arkham City tie-ins through here. And eventually, we do get to the Arkham Knight stuff. Oh, man, I was wrong. There's more than 20. Unhinged. Yes. So most of the Arkham Knight storyline is written by Peter Tomasi, Victor Bogdanovic doing a lot of the artwork, and Art Thibert doing the inks here. John Rausch doing the colors. And this is taking place before you get started with the video game. It picks up after the events of Arkham City. And I think this was also released digitally first. And it was collected in, of course, a series of trade paperbacks. But again, it takes place before the events of Arkham City. So there is the spoiler, or I'm sorry, Arkham Knight. There is the spoiler here as to the revelation of who the Arkham Knight is. And, you know, it's the aftermath of course, Arkham City. And there is a reason why it's called Arkham City. I didn't want to spoil that in case you haven't read the book or, of course, played the video game. But I really dug the artwork. This is a lot of early Victor Bogdanove. He has a very Grey Capullo type of style. Yeah, it's nice, and it fits the Batman artwork, and he draws one hell of a Bane. Now, if you've never played the video games and you're wondering, can I still read this? Yes, but you will be a little bit confused as to some of the things that are happening here, because a lot of the plot happens in the video game, and they don't give you, like, a quick recap, unfortunately, like previously in Arkham City, or previously in Arkham Asylum, or Arkham Knight, or Arkham Origins. They don't give you anything like that. It would have been helpful. It would have been cool to do that. But I think you can probably figure it out, because, you know, there are villains here that are dealing with some of the things that happened in Arkham City, mainly. And then there's the good guys that are talking about, hey, that went down wrong. We shouldn't have let that happen. So I guess in a way, it is, Azrael, love his costume. It is a little accessible to new readers, but you might have to, you know, try to figure some things out, fill in the blanks, or maybe watch a playthrough. That's what my younger brother does. Watch his playthroughs. I call him, like, I call that the little brother syndrome, like when he used to watch me play. Oh my gosh. I think I just made that connection. He used to watch me, his older brother, play video games, and now he's watching other people, strangers, play video games, just like you're watching some dude flipping pages. But there are deaths through here that will be spoiled because it happened in the video game that did not happen here. So let's actually look at the extras. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't talk about the Arkham Knight Genesis miniseries, that reveals who the Arkham Knight is, and I didn't want to spoil that, so you can find out for yourself. That is also written by Peter Tomasi. At that point, it's Dexter Soy that joins him on artwork. But here's the variant covers. Not a lot, you know. I think if they had printed these books now instead of, when was this? Like 2011, 2012, 2015, we would have a ton more. That is one badass Jim Lee and Alex Sinclair Batman cover. And there's the Arkham Knight game variant cover. And your end sheets. So not a lot of extras, but I mean, it is a big book already. So let's talk about the build. There's that eye, 1,648 pages. And this paper stock they're using for this omnibus is a little slicker than the paper stock they've used in their recent new printings. Not just the reprints, but even like Superman the Triangle years. Because that paper stock feels more like a satin paper, like it's a mix between glossy and matte. This actually does feel like glossy paper. It's not as thick as it used to be. And actually, coming back to pages like this where there's some white, and you can see there's a little bit of bleed through happening. I've seen a lot worse, and I've also seen better, but there is bleed through happening. Now, luckily, most of this book takes place at nighttime, because I mean, Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, it's dark, so you don't really have to worry that much. But I understand, you know, people that are like, oh, I don't like any bleed throughs in my book, I may have to try to find a first printing. It's not that bad. Like, I always like to remind people, I do have two big bright lights pointing directly at the book to kind of get rid of the shadows, but you know, it is your choice ultimately, but there is just a little bit. Now, as far as the way the book lays over, you don't really have to worry about that many spread pages. It's very minimal. Most of the stories are either splash pages or just panels. It's just a little bit of gutter loss, but not too bad. Honestly, for a book that's 1,648 pages, it's not bad at all. But that is it. That is what Batman the Arkham Saga is. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on picking this up, if you have the original printing, if you played the video games and have always been curious about what this omnibus is, and what the stories are like, and of course the artwork. And if you're just a Batman fanatic and have never played the video games but just love the comics and you're picking this up, I'd love to know all those comments down below, and where do you put it on your bookshelf, out of curiosity. But that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out, and if you have any questions, leave those down below. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.